Rob Studio Adventures, copyright 2025, Lost Sheep Publishing. Chapter 1, A Mysterious Talent. The Encounter. It was a crisp fall evening when Rob first heard the haunting melody in Grass Valley's town square. A young musician, their face obscured by the hood of a worn jacket, strummed a battered guitar with a skill that stopped Rob in his tracks. The music wasn't just beautiful, it was otherworldly. Drawn by curiosity, Rob introduced himself and invited the musician to his studio, intrigued by the possibility of capturing such raw talent. The studio session. The next day, the musician, who introduced themselves as Kai, arrived at Rob's studio, clutching the same guitar. As they began to play, Rob was mesmerized by the depth and emotion in their music. The recording session went well at first, but strange anomalies started appearing in the tracks. Inexplicable static, ghostly whispers, and faint cries in the background. Kai seemed unfazed, but Rob couldn't shake the eerie feeling. The guitar's secret. Determined to understand what was happening, Rob asked Kai about their guitar. Kai hesitated before revealing that it had belonged to their grandfather, a once famous musician who had vanished mysteriously decades ago. The guitar, Kai claimed, was believed to be cursed, though they didn't believe the stories. Rob wasn't so sure anymore. Unraveling the history. Rob dug into the guitar's history and discovered it had a dark past. The instrument had been passed down through generations, each owner achieving brief fame before meeting a tragic or unexplained end. Rob's research led him to an old article about Kai's grandfather, who had written a legendary song said to capture the soul. The song that shouldn't exist. Kai mentioned a melody that came to them in dreams, a song they couldn't resist playing. When they performed it in the studio, the room seemed to vibrate with energy. The recording equipment failed, and Rob's power flickered. Afterward, Rob listened to the fragments they managed to record, only to hear a voice whisper his name. The warnings. As word of Kai's talent spread, strangers began showing up at the studio, some claiming to be fans, others issuing cryptic warnings. One old man insisted Rob destroy the recordings, saying the song was a doorway to something dangerous. Rob's rational side resisted, but the increasing anomalies made him question whether the man was right. The rift. The growing tension took a toll on Rob and Kai's collaboration. Rob's obsession with uncovering the truth about the song strained their trust. Kai felt Rob cared more about the mystery than the music. When Rob secretly attempted to isolate and analyze the song's anomalies, Kai stormed out, leaving Rob alone with the unfinished recordings. The vision. That night, Rob fell asleep in the studio while listening to the recording. He dreamt of a shadowy figure playing Kai's guitar in a smoky, dimly lit room. The music was mesmerizing but filled with sorrow. The figure turned toward him, and Rob recognized Kai's grandfather. "Finish it," the apparition whispered before disappearing. The final session. Kai returned the next day, drawn back by an unexplainable pull. Rob apologized, and they agreed to complete the song together. As Kai played, the studio filled with an almost tangible energy. Rob felt both exhilarated and terrified as the final notes rang out, leaving a profound silence. This time, the recording equipment worked perfectly, capturing the entire piece. The aftermath. The finished song became an instant sensation, praised for its haunting beauty. But Rob and Kai agreed to keep its origin a secret. Despite its success, Rob couldn't shake the feeling that they'd opened a door they couldn't close. Kai, too, seemed changed, their music taking on an even more ethereal quality. Late at night, when Rob played the recording, he sometimes thought he could hear faint whispers, reminding him that some mysteries are better left unsolved. Chapter 2, The Rivalry. The Arrival. Grass Valley buzzed with excitement when renowned music producer Max Crenshaw announced the grand opening of his ultramodern recording studio, Crenshaw Sound Labs. Unlike Rob's cozy, rustic studio on the outskirts of town, Crenshaw's studio boasted cutting-edge technology and an aggressive marketing campaign that promised to redefine the sound of tomorrow. Rob knew competition was inevitable, but he couldn't shake the sense of dread as clients began canceling their bookings. The first blow. Business at Rob's studio slowed to a crawl. Even longtime clients started drifting toward Crenshaw's flashy promises. Rob's frustration grew when he overheard local musicians at a coffee shop praising Crenshaw's setup. Determined not to go down without a fight, Rob brainstormed ways to remind the community of what made his studio special: its heart, soul, and personal touch. The idea. While cleaning up his cluttered desk, Rob stumbled upon an old flyer for a local battle of the bands he'd judged years ago. The memory sparked an idea: a record-off, where local musicians would compete to create the best original track. The winner would receive free studio time, and the event would showcase Rob's commitment to fostering local talent. Energized, Rob began reaching out to musicians and spreading the word. The lineup. Musicians from all over Grass Valley signed up, forming a wildly diverse lineup. There was Lucy, a fiery folk singer with a knack for storytelling; Darnell, a classically trained violinist experimenting with electronic beats; the Howlers, a rowdy punk band; and Emily, a soft-spoken high schooler with a voice that could silence a room. As Rob assembled the roster, he realized the record-off wasn't just a competition. It was a celebration of the community. Max strikes back. When word of the record-off reached Max Crenshaw, he dismissed it as amateurish but secretly felt threatened. To counter Rob's event, Max announced a free recording workshop on the same day. The move divided the music community, forcing musicians to choose sides. Rob's resolve hardened as he realized this wasn't just about business. It was personal. The rehearsals. As the event approached, Rob's studio bustled with activity. He coached the musicians, offering guidance and encouragement. Tensions flared as egos clashed. Lucy and Darnell argued over creative direction, while the Howlers' antics annoyed the more serious competitors. Rob found himself not just a producer, but a mediator, reminding everyone of the bigger picture. The showdown. The day of the record-off arrived, and Rob's studio was packed with musicians, fans, and curious locals. Each act performed their piece, pouring their hearts into the music. Lucy's raw emotion captivated the audience. Darnell's genre-blending track left jaws dropping, and Emily's delicate ballad brought tears to many eyes. Even the Howlers delivered an unexpectedly poignant performance. The unexpected twist. Just as Rob prepared to announce the winner, Max Crenshaw arrived uninvited, flanked by a camera crew. He smugly offered to sign the winner to his label, claiming he could take their career further than Rob ever could. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to Rob. Drawing a deep breath, Rob gave a heartfelt speech about the power of community, artistry, and staying true to one's roots. Inspired, the musicians rejected Max's offer. The winner. After deliberating with the judges, Rob announced Emily as the winner. Her song, a tender yet powerful ballad, captured the spirit of the event. Emily's face lit up with disbelief as the crowd erupted in applause. Max left in a huff, his plan to overshadow Rob's event foiled. The record-off ended on a high note, with musicians and fans celebrating late into the night. Moving forward, the record-off brought new energy to Rob's studio. Musicians who had once been swayed by Crenshaw's glamour returned, appreciating Rob's dedication and authenticity. Emily's track gained local acclaim, and she credited Rob for giving her a chance. Though Crenshaw Sound Labs remained a looming presence, Rob realized the key to his success wasn't beating Max at his own game. It was staying true to what made his studio unique. And as he locked up the studio that night, Rob knew the best was yet to come. Chapter 3: The Lost Track. The Discovery. While reorganizing the cluttered attic of his studio, Rob stumbled upon a dusty box labeled Session Archives. Inside, he found an old reel-to-reel tape marked The Golden Session, 1974. Intrigued, he played it on his vintage equipment. The music was raw and unfinished but extraordinary, a mix of soulful melodies and intricate arrangements. The tape cut off abruptly, leaving Rob wondering what could have been. The legend. Rob asked Mia, his assistant, to research the origins of the Golden Session. She uncovered an old local legend. The recording was rumored to be the work of a secret collaboration between a group of legendary musicians who passed through Grass Valley in the 1970s. The session had been abandoned under mysterious circumstances, and the incomplete tape was thought to be lost forever. If finished, it could bring fame to Rob's struggling studio. The team, determined to complete the track, Rob assembled a group of local talent. He called on Emily, the rising star from his previous competition, to handle the vocals. Darnell, the innovative violinist, and Lucy, the fiery folk singer, joined to add their unique styles. Even the Howlers, the rowdy punk band, agreed to bring their raw energy. The project began to generate excitement, but Rob knew it wouldn't be easy to capture the magic of the original session. The rival. News of Rob's discovery reached Max Crenshaw, who claimed his father had financed the original session and therefore had legal rights to the recording. Max issued a public statement declaring that he would sue Rob if the track was released. Rob's dream of completing the song suddenly turned into a high-stakes battle over ownership. The creative process. Despite the looming legal threat, Rob and his team dove into the project. Recreating the missing parts proved challenging, as the tape's abrupt ending left no clues about how it was meant to conclude. The musicians clashed over creative differences, with Lucy and Darnell debating the song's direction, while the Howlers struggled to adapt to a more refined style. Rob had to mediate and keep the team focused. The sabotage. One night, Rob arrived at the studio to find the door ajar and the tape missing. Security footage revealed a masked figure breaking in, but their identity was unclear. The loss devastated the team, but Rob suspected Max was behind it. With no evidence, he had to push forward using only the rough copies they'd managed to back up. The community rallies. Hearing about the theft, the Grass Valley music community rallied around Rob. Musicians and fans offered their support, and a local attorney volunteered to help with the legal fight. Inspired by the outpouring of goodwill, Rob redoubled his efforts, convincing his team that finishing the track was about more than fame. It was about preserving a piece of music history. The courtroom showdown. The legal battle culminated in a dramatic courtroom showdown. Max presented a signed contract from 1974, claiming it proved his father's ownership. Rob's lawyer countered with evidence that the studio's previous owner had retained the rights to all recordings made there. The judge ruled in Rob's favor, granting him the right to complete and release the track. The premiere. With the legal obstacles behind them, Rob and his team finalized the track. The finished piece combined the original 1970s soul with modern influences, creating something truly timeless. They hosted a premiere event at the studio, inviting the community and even some of the original session musicians who had been tracked down. The room erupted in applause as the final notes played, marking a triumphant moment for everyone involved. The legacy. The release of the Golden Session brought widespread acclaim, shining a spotlight on Rob's studio. Max's attempts to discredit the project backfired, leaving his reputation tarnished. The track became a symbol of the power of collaboration and community, inspiring a new wave of musicians in Grass Valley. As Rob locked up the studio one night, he glanced at the now empty attic and smiled, knowing the music would live on. Chapter: Haunted Studio. The rumors. The first whispers began on a stormy night when Rob's client, a local band, claimed to hear faint voices in their recording playback. Though Rob dismissed it as interference, word spread quickly through Grass Valley. Soon, the studio's reputation took on a supernatural twist, with rumors that it was built on haunted ground. Musicians started booking sessions out of curiosity, but Rob couldn't shake the growing unease. Strange happenings. The odd occurrences escalated. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation, and Rob began hearing faint whispers and footsteps when he was alone. One evening, Emily, a rising star who frequently recorded at the studio, fled mid-session, claiming she saw a shadowy figure in the control room. Reluctantly, Rob admitted something wasn't right. The paranormal investigator. Word of the haunted studio reached Marcus Kane, a self-proclaimed paranormal investigator who specialized in haunted locations. Marcus offered his services, promising to uncover the truth. Skeptical but desperate for answers, Rob agreed. Marcus arrived with an array of ghost hunting equipment, including cameras, recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors. The first investigation. During their first night of investigation, Marcus and Rob stayed late in the studio. As they reviewed the recordings, Marcus's devices picked up faint but distinct voices, a mix of laughter and sobbing. A strange cold spot appeared near the mixing console. Marcus concluded that the studio was indeed haunted, but by what, he couldn't yet say. The history of the land. Mia, Rob's assistant, dug into the history of the property. She discovered that the studio was built on land once owned by a family of musicians in the early 1900s. According to local lore, a tragic fire had destroyed their home, claiming several lives. Among the deceased was a young pianist named Eleanor, known for her haunting compositions. Eleanor's song. Marcus theorized that the spirit of Eleanor might be tied to the music recorded in the studio. During a late-night session, he encouraged Rob to play some of Eleanor's surviving sheet music, which Mia had found in an old archive. As Rob played the piano, the room grew icy cold, and the faint outline of a woman appeared near the microphone. Everyone froze in shock as the apparition whispered, "Finish it." The lost composition. Mia discovered that Eleanor had left behind an unfinished composition, rumored to have been inspired by a heartbreak she never recovered from. The sheet music was incomplete, but Marcus believed that completing and recording the piece might bring her spirit peace. Rob decided to assemble his best musicians to help. The recording session. Rob brought together Emily, Darnell, and Lucy to recreate Eleanor's composition. The session was tense, with equipment acting erratically and strange noises disrupting their focus. At one point, the Howlers stopped by, offering their punk twist to the piece, which surprisingly added depth. As they worked, the air in the studio seemed charged with an otherworldly energy. Eleanor's farewell. When the final note was recorded, the room fell silent. The temperature returned to normal, and the oppressive presence lifted. For a moment, the faint figure of Eleanor appeared, a soft smile on her face, before fading away. Marcus declared the haunting resolved, and Rob felt a wave of relief and triumph. A new chapter. The recording of Eleanor's composition gained local acclaim, drawing attention to the studio's unique history. Musicians were eager to record in the haunted studio, adding to its mystique. Rob reflected on the experience, grateful for the opportunity to preserve a piece of history while keeping Eleanor's memory alive. Though the whispers were gone, he couldn't help but feel her presence every time he played the piano. Chapter 5: The Big Break. The invitation. Rob was sipping his morning coffee when his phone buzzed with an email notification. The Howlers, a scrappy punk band he'd been mentoring, had been invited to play at the West Coast Amplify Festival, a huge event that could launch their career. The band was ecstatic, but their excitement quickly turned to concern as they realized the costs. Travel, lodging, and entry fees were far beyond their means. A desperate plan. The band met at Rob's studio to brainstorm. Darnell suggested a crowdfunding campaign, and Lucy offered to host a fundraiser gig, but time was short. Rob saw their potential and believed in them deeply. After much thought, he made a tough decision. That night, he took his prized 1965 Fender Stratocaster, a guitar he'd cherished for years, to the local pawn shop. The money he received was enough to cover their basic expenses. Hitting the road. With their gear packed into an old, unreliable van borrowed from Lucy's cousin, the band set out for the festival. Spirits were high, and Rob joined them as their unofficial manager and moral support. The road trip was filled with laughter, jam sessions, and hopeful anticipation. But just as they were beginning to feel unstoppable, trouble struck. The breakdown. Halfway to the festival, the van sputtered to a halt on a desolate highway. The band discovered that someone had tampered with the engine. Stranded and frustrated, they worked together to fix it, with Darnell using his mechanical know-how and Rob calling in a favor from an old friend who towed them to a nearby garage. The incident bonded them further, but the delay put them dangerously behind schedule. The fundraiser detour. While waiting for the van to be repaired, the group decided to host an impromptu gig at a local dive bar to raise some extra cash. Lucy's fiery performance and the Howlers' raw energy captivated the audience, and they managed to collect enough money to cover the rest of their trip. The experience boosted their confidence and reignited their determination. The rival band. At the festival's outskirts, they encountered Max Crenshaw, Rob's longtime rival, who was managing a flashy, overproduced band called Steel Vortex. Max mocked Rob's ragtag group and hinted that the Howlers' set time might not be secure. Suspicious, Rob decided to keep a close eye on Max while encouraging the band to stay focused. The setlist shakeup. The day before their performance, the Howlers discovered their assigned time slot had been moved to an earlier, less desirable time, a clear move to sabotage their visibility. Rob confronted the festival organizers, who admitted they'd been pressured by Max. After a tense negotiation, Rob managed to secure a slightly better slot, though it wasn't ideal. Rising tensions, exhaustion, and stress began to take a toll on the band. Arguments erupted over the set list, with Emily pushing for more melodic tracks and the others insisting on their edgier, high-energy songs. Rob stepped in as the peacemaker, reminding them of their shared goal. Together, they crafted a set list that showcased their range while staying true to their punk roots. The performance. The big day arrived. The Howlers took the stage with a mix of nerves and excitement. As they played their hearts out, the crowd grew larger, drawn by their raw, authentic sound. Even the festival organizers were impressed, and Max's smug expression turned to annoyance. By the end of their set, the audience erupted in applause, and the Howlers knew they'd made their mark. The aftermath. Backstage, industry representatives approached the Howlers with offers for recording contracts and tour opportunities. Rob watched with pride as the band's hard work paid off. On the drive back to Grass Valley, they reflected on their journey and the obstacles they'd overcome. Rob quietly vowed to reclaim his guitar someday, but for now, he knew he'd made the right choice. The bond they'd forged through the challenges was worth more than any possession. Chapter 6: The Stolen Song. A brilliant track. The day started like any other at Rob's studio, with the hum of equipment and the scent of coffee in the air. Liam, a promising young singer-songwriter, had come to record his latest piece, a hauntingly beautiful track called Shadows on the Wall. Rob was blown away by the song's raw emotion and unique sound, confident it would be a hit. They finished the demo late that evening, both excited for what lay ahead. The leak. Just days later, Rob's phone buzzed with a string of messages from Liam. The track had mysteriously surfaced online, and to their horror, it was being credited to Damian Chase, a famous pop star known for snapping up underground hits. Rob and Liam were stunned. The track had been uploaded to a major streaming platform, and Chase's PR machine was already promoting it as his next single. The first clues. Rob immediately checked his studio's files and security system. There were no signs of a break-in, but someone had accessed the recording sessions remotely. Liam was devastated, feeling betrayed and powerless. Determined to help, Rob called Mia, his tech-savvy assistant, to investigate. She uncovered an IP address linked to the leak, pointing them towards someone within the music industry. Into the underworld. Their investigation led them to a shady music producer known as Vincent Viper Morales, infamous for backdoor deals and ghostwriting scandals. Rob and Liam decided to confront him at a dingy club where Viper often scouted talent. Viper denied involvement, but hinted that Damian Chase's team was known to pay top dollar for unreleased tracks. The conversation ended with a veiled threat, leaving Rob and Liam more determined than ever. Gathering evidence. Back at the studio, Mia worked tirelessly to trace the leak. She discovered a metadata discrepancy in the stolen track. It still contained Rob's unique recording signature embedded in the audio. This could prove the song's true origin, but they needed more evidence to build a solid case. Meanwhile, Liam wrote an emotional blog post about the experience, gaining the support of fans and local musicians. The legal hurdle. Rob contacted his old friend Sarah, a lawyer who specialized in intellectual property. Sarah agreed to take the case, but warned that going up against Damien Chase's legal team would be an uphill battle. They filed an injunction to halt the song's release, but Chase's lawyers countered with claims that Liam had sold the track willingly. Public opinion began to waver as rumors spread. The industry insider. A surprise ally emerged, a disgruntled former employee of Chase's label, who provided damning emails showing that the label had purchased the track from an anonymous source. The emails also revealed Viper's involvement as the middleman. Armed with this evidence, Sarah prepared for a showdown in court. The courtroom drama. The courtroom battle was intense. Chase's team argued that the song had been legitimately acquired, while Sarah presented the metadata and email trail proving otherwise. Liam testified about the song's creation, playing an early voice memo recorded on his phone. The turning point came when Mia demonstrated how Rob's recording signature matched the leaked track, leaving no doubt about its origin. Justice served. The court ruled in Liam's favor, ordering Damien Chase to publicly apologize and pay damages. The ruling also mandated that all profits from the song's release be transferred to Liam. For Chase, it was a public relations disaster. For Rob and Liam, it was vindication. The story made headlines, shining a light on the darker side of the music industry. A new beginning. With his newfound recognition, Liam's career took off. He signed a fair contract with a reputable label and continued working with Rob, who felt immense pride in helping Liam achieve his dreams. The experience bonded them and reinforced Rob's belief in standing up for what's right. As Liam recorded his first full album, Rob hung a framed copy of the court ruling in the studio, a reminder that integrity always matters in the world of music. Chapter 7: The Hidden Frequency. The discovery. It began as a routine experiment. Rob, always fascinated by the quirks of analog equipment, was testing an old reel-to-reel tape machine he'd bought at a flea market. While adjusting the machine settings, he stumbled upon an unusual frequency. The sound was barely audible, but felt profound, a low hum that seemed to resonate deep within the listener. Intrigued, Rob decided to record it and explore its effects. Strange reactions. The next day, Rob invited his assistant Mia and a local band into the studio to test the frequency. The reactions were startling. Mia experienced vivid memories of her childhood, while the drummer swore he saw colors swirling in the air. Others reported strange but harmless sensations. Word spread quickly, and curious locals began showing up at Rob's studio, eager to experience the mysterious sound. A growing phenomenon. As more people came to hear the frequency, the reactions became more intense. A young poet claimed it unlocked his creativity, while an elderly woman said it brought back forgotten memories of her late husband. Rob, fascinated but cautious, kept detailed notes. However, when a viral video of the phenomenon surfaced online, the attention spiraled out of control. Crowds began gathering outside the studio, and Rob realized he was in over his head. Unwelcome attention. One evening, two men in suits arrived at the studio, identifying themselves as agents from a government agency. They questioned Rob about the frequency, hinting at its potential as a weapon. Rob denied any such intentions, but their veiled threats left him unsettled. The agents left with a warning: stop the experiments or face serious consequences. The science behind the sound. Determined to understand the frequency, Rob reached out to Dr. Elena Foster, a former audio engineer turned neuroscientist. She analyzed the recordings and revealed that the frequency resonated at a pitch capable of affecting brain waves, triggering heightened sensory experiences. Dr. Foster warned Rob about the ethical implications of continuing his experiments, but her curiosity about the sound's potential was clear. Escalation. The agents returned, this time with a warrant to confiscate Rob's equipment and recordings. Desperate to protect his work, Rob managed to smuggle the original reel out of the studio with Mia's help. As the agents searched the premises, Rob decided to go underground. moving the reel to a secure location while pondering what to do next. A dangerous proposal. Dr. Foster contacted Rob with a proposition: share the frequency with her lab for controlled, ethical research. Rob was torn. He trusted Dr. Foster, but feared her findings might still fall into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, rumors of the frequency's effects had reached a powerful tech mogul, who offered Rob a fortune to commercialize it. Rob declined, but the encounter left him feeling even more vulnerable. The confrontation. Late one night, Rob's studio was broken into. The agents, frustrated by their lack of progress, were now acting outside the law. Rob, Mia, and Dr. Foster confronted them, using a recording of the frequency as a last resort. When played at a high volume, the sound overwhelmed the agents, causing them to retreat. Rob realized the power he was dealing with and vowed to end the madness. The final decision. Rob, Mia, and Dr. Foster debated the frequency's fate. Dr. Foster argued for continued research, while Mia sided with Rob, urging caution. In the end, Rob decided to destroy the original reel and erase all digital copies. He couldn't risk the frequency being weaponized or exploited. Though painful, he knew it was the right choice. Moving forward, life returned to normal at the studio, but Rob couldn't shake the feeling that he'd glimpsed something extraordinary. The experience brought him closer to Mia and Dr. Foster, forming a bond rooted in trust and shared responsibility. Rob continued his experiments, albeit more cautiously, always mindful of the line between curiosity and danger. The reel may have been destroyed, but the lessons it taught would shape his work for years to come. Chapter 8: The Time Capsule Tape. The discovery. The renovation of Rob's studio was meant to be a simple project, patching up walls, replacing old floorboards, and modernizing the space. But as the crew pried up a warped section of the floor, they uncovered a sealed metal box. Inside, Rob found a time capsule marked with the date 1976. Among its contents, a faded Polaroid, old concert flyers, and a cassette tape labeled "Play on January 1st, 2026. Intrigued, Rob decided to honor the mysterious instruction. The waiting game. Rob and Mia examined the other items in the time capsule, but none of them offered clues about the tape's purpose. They speculated about the intentions of the people who buried it. Rob stored the tape in a safe place, and as the days turned into weeks, curiosity grew. By the time New Year's Eve arrived, the anticipation had spread among their close circle of friends and clients. The cryptic song. On January 1st, 2026, Rob gathered Mia, Darnell, and a few others in the studio. With an old cassette player hooked up, they hit play. A hauntingly beautiful song filled the room, featuring eerie lyrics that reference places and people in Grass Valley. As the song played, the group grew uneasy. The lyrics hinted at events yet to come: a fire in the trees, a gathering at the square, and the vanishing of the melody. The puzzle pieces. Mia transcribed the song's lyrics while Rob analyzed the recording. The quality was surprisingly clear for its age, and Rob noted peculiar distortions in the background. They decided to investigate the song's references, starting with the fire in the trees. Research led them to an old journal from a local historian, which mentioned a wildfire that nearly destroyed Grass Valley decades ago. The gathering. The line about a gathering at the square prompted Rob and Mia to visit the town's central plaza. There, they discovered plans for an upcoming event, a large outdoor concert featuring local musicians. The eerie coincidence unsettled them, especially as they realized the concert's date aligned with another cryptic line in the song. The vanishing melody. The final lyric, "the vanishing of the melody," left Rob and Mia stumped. They played the tape repeatedly, hoping for more clues. As they delved deeper, they noticed a faint sound buried beneath the music. Mia used advanced audio software to isolate it, revealing a distorted voice. The voice appeared to be a warning: protect the song. It holds the key. A hidden threat. Rob and Mia's investigation attracted attention. A mysterious figure began following them, asking probing questions about the tape. When the studio was broken into one night, Rob knew they were dealing with more than a local mystery. He suspected the tape's significance extended beyond Grass Valley, and someone was determined to take it from them. The revelation. Dr. Elena Foster, Rob's neuroscientist friend, offered to analyze the tape. Her findings were astonishing. The song contained a hidden frequency capable of influencing emotions and memories. Elena theorized that the tape's creators had encoded the frequency as a warning system, tied to events that could disrupt the town's harmony. The concert catastrophe. On the night of the outdoor concert, Rob and Mia were on high alert. The song's predictions had been eerily accurate so far. As the event began, strange phenomena unfolded: technical malfunctions, an ominous shift in the weather, and sudden panic among the crowd. Rob realized the hidden frequency on the tape was being amplified through the concert's sound system, triggering chaos. Saving the town. Acting quickly, Rob and Mia worked together to disable the concert's sound system, cutting off the frequency. The crowd calmed, and order was restored. In the aftermath, Rob confronted the mysterious figure who'd been shadowing them, discovering they were part of a secret organization dedicated to studying anomalous phenomena. Rob refused to hand over the tape, instead choosing to destroy it to protect Grass Valley. The experience left Rob and Mia shaken but resolute, vowing to safeguard their community from future threats. Chapter 9: The Music Box Killer. The first note. Rob's morning routine was shattered by the news on the radio: a gruesome murder in Grass Valley. The victim, a local teacher, was found clutching a music box playing a haunting lullaby. As Rob processed the chilling report, his phone buzzed. Detective Sarah Price, an old friend, wanted to speak with him about an unusual lead connected to his studio. The lullaby. At the station, Sarah played Rob a recording of the music box's melody. To his shock, the tune was identical to a fragment from an old demo recorded at his studio years ago. Rob vaguely remembered the session, but the artist's identity was a blur. Sarah asked him to dig through his archives for more information. Unearthing the past. Rob spent hours combing through dusty tapes and digital files. He finally found the original recording, an eerie, minimalist track labeled Lullaby of Shadows. The artist's name was listed as Anna Carter, a singer-songwriter who had disappeared shortly after the session. Rob contacted Sarah with the news, and the two began piecing together Anna's history. A second murder. Before they could act, another murder shook the town. This time, a local musician was found with the same music box. The growing pattern alarmed Rob and Sarah. They discovered both victims had attended a private gathering years ago where Anna had performed the haunting lullaby. The connection was undeniable, but the motive remained elusive. A ghostly legend. Rob's research led him to a retired producer named Greg who had worked with Anna. Greg revealed that Anna's music was inspired by an old folk tale about a cursed melody that drove listeners to madness. He recalled Anna's obsession with the story and how she claimed to channel it into her work. Greg warned Rob and Sarah to tread carefully. The melody had a sinister reputation. The hidden recording. Back at the studio, Rob discovered an unmarked tape tucked behind a shelf. It contained an extended version of Anna's Lullaby of Shadows, with chilling whispers embedded in the background. Using advanced audio software, Rob isolated the whispers and uncovered a cryptic message: the melody must live on. The unsettling discovery hinted at a deeper, darker purpose behind the killings. The killer's trail. Sarah's investigation uncovered a shocking lead. All the victims were members of an underground music circle known for hosting secretive events. The circle's last gathering had been Anna's final performance before her disappearance. Rob and Sarah suspected the killer was targeting those who had witnessed the cursed melody firsthand, but the question remained: why? The confrontation. When another member of the circle narrowly escaped an attack, they provided a crucial clue. The killer's identity might be tied to Anna herself. Rob and Sarah traced the survivor's account to an abandoned cabin on the outskirts of Grass Valley, where Anna had reportedly stayed before vanishing. Inside, they found a journal filled with her tormented writings about releasing the melody to complete the circle. The final performance. The journal led them to an old amphitheater where Anna had performed her last concert. Rob and Sarah arrived just in time to catch the killer, a former member of the circle who believed they were finishing Anna's work. In a tense showdown, Rob used his audio expertise to disable the music box the killer was carrying, disrupting their plan and saving the intended victim. The aftermath. With the killer in custody, Rob and Sarah reflected on the dark history of the melody and its impact on Grass Valley. Rob decided to archive Anna's recording securely, ensuring they'd never be misused again. As the town began to heal, Rob realized how deeply music could intertwine with both beauty and tragedy. He vowed to honor its power responsibly, no matter the cost. Chapter 10: The Band That Never Existed. The Unexpected Arrival. It was a quiet afternoon at the studio when Rob heard a knock at the door. A group of 5 musicians stood on the porch, carrying vintage instruments and an air of mystery. They introduced themselves as the Echoes and insisted they had a recording session booked months ago. Rob checked his calendar and emails, but found no record of their booking. Despite his reservations, their earnestness and obvious passion for music convinced him to let them stay. Otherworldly talent. As the Echoes set up, Rob couldn't help but notice their peculiar equipment, a mix of modern and antique gear, much of it unfamiliar to him. When they began to play, their music was nothing short of extraordinary. The melodies felt timeless yet innovative, resonating deeply with Rob and leaving him both awestruck and unsettled. He recorded their session, convinced he was capturing something special. Eerie familiarity. During a break, the Echoes began sharing oddly specific details about the studio's history, events and renovations that predated Rob's ownership. One member described a hidden storage room he claimed was beneath the floorboards of the control room. Skeptical but curious, Rob checked the spot later that night and discovered a concealed trapdoor leading to a dusty, forgotten cellar. The Lost Room. In the cellar, Rob found old reel-to-reel tapes, handwritten lyrics, and photographs of musicians he didn't recognize. Some of the faces bore an uncanny resemblance to members of the Echoes. The unease began to creep in as he realized the band's knowledge wasn't just impressive, it was impossible. He decided to confront them during their next session. Vanishing acts. When Rob returned to the studio the following morning, the Echoes were nowhere to be found. Their instruments were gone, and the session file on his computer had inexplicably corrupted. Frustrated and confused, he searched for any trace of them online, but found no records of a band by that name. It was as if they'd never existed. The cryptic clue. Rob reviewed the corrupted file and managed to salvage a fragment of audio. Playing it back, he heard not only the band's haunting music, but also faint whispers in the background. Slowing it down, he discerned a voice repeating a phrase. "We're here to remember." Rob was more determined than ever to uncover their story. Digging deeper. Mia joined Rob in researching the studio's history. They discovered that in the 1960s, a fire had destroyed part of the building during a recording session. Rumors suggested the band recording that day, a group called the Echoes, had perished in the blaze. Legends claimed their final song was never finished and that their spirits lingered, seeking closure. The echoing past. Rob and Mia pieced together enough to reconstruct the unfinished song from the found tapes and salvage fragments of the corrupted file. When they played the composition, strange phenomena began. Lights flickered, and faint figures seemed to appear in the studio's reflections. It was as though the Echoes were responding to their music being revived. Completing the song. With Mia on the piano and Rob engineering the session, they recorded the final missing elements of the song. As the last note faded, the studio fell eerily silent. The air grew heavy, and for a fleeting moment, Rob felt a presence around him, grateful, peaceful, and finally at rest. The corrupted file on his computer was suddenly restored, now containing the complete track. The legacy lives on. Rob decided to release the track under the Echoes name, presenting it as a tribute to a forgotten band. The hauntingly beautiful song gained widespread acclaim, resonating with listeners worldwide. Though Rob never saw the Echoes again, he felt their gratitude through the music. The experience deepened his appreciation for the mysteries of creativity and the connections forged through sound, even across the boundaries of time.